Toward the end of the song Another Year by Animals as Leaders, there is a chord progression that I just really love. There are some very cool harmonic tricks that are going on, and the chords themselves are very satisfying to play, and touch on a lot of different chord voicings that are important to know. So in today's video, I'm going to do a quick run through of this chord progression, look at the chord voicings themselves and where they come from, and then look at a couple of cool little things going on in the progression as a whole. If you are interested in taking a look at this chord progression and wanting to look at it with me, then there is a free PDF down below, and you can download that and follow along as we go. And for my Patreon subscribers, we have the Drop 3 set of voicings coming out for you, either today or in the next day or two, as I kind of put the final tweaks on them, and that is going to help you expand your knowledge of these chord voicings we look at into some more general use purposes. So with that, let's get into it now and take a look at some of these chords. So let's just start by looking at what chords are actually going on here. We are starting with an A major 7, moving to an E major triad in first inversion, followed by an E6-9 chord. This next chord is technically an E major 7 sharp 5, but more on that later. This is an A major 7 in first inversion, followed by a G sharp minor 7, and this is an A add 9 with a sharp 11 eventually on it. To finish this off, we have this E minor chord and a C major 9 with a sharp 11. So now let's look at what types of chord voicings are actually being used. We're starting out here with a drop 3 or shell voicing, followed by a triad with a dropped bass note, and another shell voicing with an extension on top. This one here is a drop 3, followed by another drop 3, and then we have this wide double drop 2, drop 3 voicing. This chord here is a triad cluster over bass note, followed by a basic triad, and another triad cluster over bass note. So let's listen to it one more time with that information. Have it. Those are the chords. So maybe at this point, getting those chord voicings down and into your vocabulary and starting to learn to recognize them in other songs is going to be enough. But for those of you who are interested in what is going on harmonically in the chord progression as a whole, I want to point out just a couple of cool things that I have noticed. So this chord progression has a general kind of A major sound and E major sound. It's in the key of E. And we have this motion from the 4, the A, that works its way down to the 1. Some of these chords have extensions on them, like this E major sound actually has a 6 and a 9 in it, so it's an E6-9 chord. But that's the general motion. It's just 4, or you can even think of it as just your cowboy chords, 4 to 1. But one chord that stands out to me is this guy right here. This is a funky chord, and as a 4-part chord, if we were just to take these 4 notes and stack them in their simplest form, this would be an E major 7 sharp 5 chord in second inversion, meaning the 5th is in the bass, that sharp 5 note, or C in this key. However, I'm not sure that that is how it is actually functioning here. To my ears, this doesn't sound like an E chord at all. It actually sounds like a G sharp triad with a flat 13 on top. This G sharp triad is in first inversion, so this is the kind of like root position sound of it. But hopefully you can kind of hear that motion that I'm hearing as well. So we have this, and a G sharp major with a flat 13 kind of implies we have a G sharp dominant sound because we don't normally find a flat 13 unless it's on a dominant sound. So that would kind of be the traditional sharp 5 chord voicing that most people know. And then we can ask, what does a G sharp dominant sound normally go to? Well, dominant sounds normally kind of represent a 5 to 1 motion or movement of a 4th. So we'd expect this to move to some sort of C sharp chord, maybe a C sharp minor. Now we don't quite get that in this song. We get instead a C sharp in the bass still, but that C sharp in the bass is the third of an A major chord. So rather than moving by fourth, we're moving up by semitone. The bass is still moving by fourth, but harmonically we're moving up by semitone. So it sounds close enough to our expected resolution that, nothing goes off as like wrong when we listen to it. However, there's a little bit of interest by changing up the harmony that it resolves to be the 4 major chord. Conveniently, that 4 major chord is also where we started, so we can kind of more or less start the cycle again to move from 4 to 1. So this chord is a super clever transition to get back to where we started, but not quite. From here, we have a similar motion as the beginning. We have a chord with a G sharp in the bass, just as we did there, that E major chord. This time it's a G sharp minor 7 though, so we're slightly changing the harmony above the G sharp note. Nice little kind of A major-y or E major-y cluster sound there. And then this is the other thing I wanted to point out, this E minor resolution. So what's happening here is we are resolving to the parallel minor mode. What that means is we are keeping the same root note of the key, in this case E, and instead of resolving to E major, we go to E minor. It could also work the other way, so if we had an E minor, we'd be resolving to E major, but that's not what's happening here. So we get to this E minor chord, and in E minor, there's also a C major 7 chord. So we're borrowing another chord from E minor and grabbing the C major 7. So very nice use of the parallel mode, kind of a little switch to vary it up rather than just going to an E major sound again. We create tension by changing up the mode. Oops. And then it gives us some more movement as well when we go back to that A major sound. It kind of feels like a lift again. So they're always trying to create these moments of lift and momentum and push in the chord progression just by changing up maybe the quality of the chord above a root note that we expected, by changing up the mode that we're grabbing our chords from, or by using some tension within the chords themselves, like with these little clusters. So some nice little principles to take with you with your own composing work. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you're wanting to support the channel to see more videos come out, then you can take a look at my Patreon page if that is something that interests you and you're wanting to progress your learning to the next level, or you are free to just drop a couple of donations over at my Buy Me a Coffee. Every little bit helps and keeps me going with this content for you guys. If you end up doing anything with these concepts that we covered today and writing any chord progressions of your own, please upload it and send it to me. I would love to see it and see where you take these ideas. But with that, wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, happy practicing.